So you're curious about the outlier tasks everyone's talking about. Whether it's the coding exams, the AI math trainer, or the content evaluator live tasks, this video is your full breakdown of everything they don't tell you, and how only 1% of people actually figure it out. And spoiler, that 1% starts here, with this video. Let me be honest. Outlier.org doesn't hand you a step-by-step manual. You apply, they send you logins, and suddenly you're staring at confusing dashboards, live assessments, coding problems, logic puzzles, and AI evaluator instructions you've never seen before. That's how they filter people out. But if you understand the system, and more importantly, how to think like the system, you'll pass when others fail. So in this video, I'll explain the structure of the outlier exams, the real expectations behind each task, the traps they don't warn you about, and how I personally cracked the test with no formal computer science degree, no elite math training, and no insider connection, just strategy, consistency, and the right preparation. Let's start with the basics. What is Outlier? Outlier.org is an educational and task platform known for working with real-world AI projects. They hire people to evaluate AI output, code small logic programs, and complete structured content evaluations. Think of it as the intersection between tech education, remote freelancing, and AI training. They offer access to tasks that actually feed into real machine learning pipelines. But the tricky part. You need to pass their qualification tasks first, usually broken into several modules, coding logic, AI math trainer, content evaluation tasks, and sometimes live decision-making simulations. These are not entry-level quizzes. They're designed to test your reasoning, logic flow, and your ability to follow complex instructions under pressure. Here's the biggest mistake most people make: they assume the tests are about speed. Nope. They're about structure and consistency. If your logic is flawed, even if your answer works, you fail. If you don't follow the exact instructions, even if your result is correct, you fail. That's why so many smart people fail these tests. They're not looking for clever shortcuts. They're looking for reliable problem solvers. Now, the coding tasks. These are usually basic programming logic questions, things like if-else decisions, loops, string manipulation, and evaluating simple functions. You don't need to be a senior developer, but you do need to think clearly. The hardest part isn't solving the task, it's understanding what kind of solution they expect. Always check for their constraints. If they say, don't use built-in functions, don't. If they say, optimize for performance, don't brute force. Think lean and readable. When I was preparing for the coding section, I created a cheat sheet of the 10 most common logic patterns, things like palindrome checks, sum of digits, basic recursion, filtering and mapping techniques. If you master these, 70% of what they throw at you becomes predictable. Want me to drop that cheat sheet? Let me know in the comments. Now, the AI math trainer. This is where most people give up. The AI math trainer section is built to simulate how AI models handle logic and calculations. You'll see word problems, probability, sometimes symbolic logic, stuff you haven't touched since high school, but with an AI spin. The secret to this section is not speed, but accuracy. Most of the problems are solvable if you slow down. The trick is to look for pattern logic. If you're getting multiple choice questions with similar sounding numbers, it's a trap. Don't guess. Break it down, write it out on paper, and double check before you click. Another tip, if they give you explanations after each question, read them. They're feeding you the exact structure of their grading logic. Even if you get the answer right, the feedback often reveals hidden grading rules, like using the fewest steps or explaining certain reasoning. Outlier isn't just testing answers. They're testing thought process. Now, let's talk about content evaluation tasks. These simulate a real human-AI feedback loop. You're given AI-generated outputs and asked to rate them based on clarity, tone, correctness, or appropriateness. This might sound easy, but it's the sneakiest section of all. One question might ask, rate the helpfulness of this AI response. Sounds simple, right? But what they want is for you to look deeper. Does the response actually answer the user's intent? Is it biased? Is it hallucinating false info? Could it be misinterpreted? Here's how I passed this section. I followed a 3-point rule. First, intent, is the response aligned with the input? Second, factuality, is the answer correct? Third, tone, does it match what the user likely expects in formality or friendliness? If two of those fail, I score it low. If all three hit, it's a high score. Stick to a consistent logic and you'll win their trust. Now, the live tasks. This is where things get real. You might be asked to solve a coding challenge on the spot, or evaluate a batch of AI responses within a time limit. What they're testing here is not perfection, it's composure. They want to see how you handle pressure, how you prioritize, and whether you can still follow guidelines when the clock is ticking. Before my live task, I did one simple thing that made all the difference. I created a practice timer session. I pulled up mock logic problems and gave myself 10 minutes to solve them with zero distractions. Not for perfection, but to simulate real pressure. By the time I did the live outlier task, I felt calm, and that calmness gave me a massive edge. Now, here's a big truth bomb. Most people fail not because they're not smart, but because they don't prepare properly. They look for shortcuts, old answer sheets, or leaked content. Don't fall for that. Outlier updates their systems often. If you're using outdated prep, it's a trap. Instead, build up your own muscle. Study logic problems. Solve simple math trainer questions on your own. Write small functions in Python or JavaScript to sharpen your mind. Practice rating AI outputs with a rubric. If you approach this like a real job, you'll be among the top 1% that make it. Let me give you a quick breakdown of how I studied. I set up a 5-day prep plan. Each day I focus on one section: logic coding, math problems, content grading, live task simulation, and review. I used free online resources like LeetCode for easy logic problems, Khan Academy for math review, and ChatGPT to simulate evaluator outputs. I created flashcards with definitions, task types, and grading rubrics to test myself. I used Notion to track my mistakes and built my own outlier task prep notebook that I reviewed every night. That's it. No secrets. Just structure and consistency. And guess what? When I finally submitted the last exam, I didn't feel nervous, I felt ready. A few days later, I got the email, "You've been approved to start live outlier tasks." That one email changed everything. Now I work flexible hours, remotely, doing tasks I enjoy, and I get paid for it. Let's wrap this up with what you really need to know. If you want to pass the Outlier AI Evaluator tasks, Math Trainer, and coding exams, don't guess. Follow the rubric. Don't rush. Think with logic and structure. Don't rely on old answers. The system changes constantly. Do simulate the pressure ahead of time. Do build your own custom prep system. Do believe that you can pass even if you don't have a tech degree. And one last thing, remember that